Welcome aboard Rocket Ship, the platform with the most relevant content for competitive examinations. This is Rocket Ship IAS Lab, and continuing with our series on answer writing for general studies papers of civil service main examination. We will take up a question that you might come across in GS paper 1. Here is the question. Geography impacts economic development, but it is no constraint. Examine with reference to India. So the general idea the question introduces is that geography has substantial control on the economic development of a country, but again we cannot say that it's only geography that can you could say again prevent a country from developing. And you have to examine this idea that geography has control but it is no constraint with a special reference to India, that is you have to give examples from India. Now how introduce our answer? We are actually introducing this with a very interesting perspective by a renowned geographer of the 14th or 15th centuries named Ibn Khaldun. Much water has flown down the Nile since Ibn Khaldun observed geography is destiny. So this is a very deterministic statement. Actually this idea that geography is the destiny of a country, that is geography defines its, you could say, history or its sociology or its level of economic development, this is called the idea of geographical determinism. Geographical determinism. People who have opted for geography would know this. This is the idea that is called geographical determinism. But the debate remains unsettled, that despite Ibn Khaldun observing that geography is destiny, there is still some debate that this idea holds to a certain extent or does not. This has been a case as much in regional division of nations as in world geography among nations. So this idea that geography controls the economic destiny of a country is relevant for the nations of the world as much as the regions of a country, for an example its states. It is indeed recognized that geography exerts control on economic development through resource endowment, climate, whether it is mild or extreme, accessibility, including connection to trade networks and so on. So these are some of the geographical factors which have substantial bearing on the level of economic development of a country. But the extent all these constraint economic development evokes impassioned debate. Let us list the ways geography controls economic development. So these are some of the ways through which geography controls economic development. First is obviously resource endowment. For an example, distribution of resources like minerals or fertile land. You can well understand that if a country has good, you could say, endowment of mineral resources as well as fertile land, it's likely to be better developed economically. Then comes accessibility. Generally it is a factor of geography that how accessible a place is. For an example, mountainous regions are less accessible while coastal regions are integrated into trade. Then comes climate. Mild climate is generally credited with promoting economic development, while tropics and deserts are less habitable and hospitable. So these factors, that is their being less habitable and hospitable, acts as a constraint, acts as a negative control on economic development. Then there is this interesting idea that geography influences the culture of a people. For example, it is often argued that people in the northern plains of India, they are inward looking. In the great plains of India, people are inward looking because actually they are so isolated from other people, they are essentially inward looking. Now taking up these points in detail. Due importance is given to the fact that it is the distribution of resources like mineral wealth which provides a head start in the journey of economic growth. For an example, with its mineral resources, the Damodar Valley region within the wider Chota Nagpur plateau could develop heavy industries due to minerals like coal and ores. Again, this is an example that is given that it is the presence of resources like coal, iron ore, as well as limestone, etc., that led to development, that led to the founding of, you could say, heavy industries in the Damodar Valley region and the wider Chota Nagpur region too. So, and this region, this Damodar Valley region and the Chota Nagpur regions were once considered one of the greatest industrial centers in the world, with important industrial centers like Dhanbad, Bokaro, Durgapur, Jamshedpur, etc. Now, geography means either isolation for the landlocked regions or integration in world trade for the, you could say, those on the coast, the coastal regions. This is perhaps why coastal states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu and Kerala are more developed. So again, we are seeing here that geographical can positively impact the level of economic development for the coastal regions and negatively for the landlocked region. Then geography can indeed influence culture, like the northern plains have a more inward looking culture, unlike the outward turn to trade in communities from Rajasthan. The example we are making here, while not naming them, that it is the Marwadi community from present day Rajasthan who excel in trade and commerce. They are considered among the leaders in the world of trade and commerce and business, and they come from a region which has been traditionally connected to the trade network. Again, some people might raise this issue that even Rajasthan is landlocked, but if you were to visualize it, you might make this connection that it is through Rajasthan that the trade network that connects the western ports and the national political center of Delhi goes through. Again, we would repeat it, that the trade route from Delhi to the western ports goes through Rajasthan. So Rajasthan essentially falls on the major trade route, on a major trade route. But despite the geographical control on economic development, evidence supports the contention that geographical constraint on development is exaggerated. So people who are saying that it is geography that essentially constrains economic development are probably overstating the control of geography on economic development. So unlike Ibn Khaldun, we are arguing here that geography is no destiny. How we can say that? We are actually introducing some ideas which are contrary to the geographical control on economic development. One is the phenomenon called resource curse. What it essentially means that it has often been observed that a resource rich region generally has this sense of moronic idea that it does not get to develop economically as much as it should be in theory, considering its considering its mineral wealth. Why this happens? First is mining adds less value than manufacturing. So while it would appear that a mineral rich region should ultimately become rich too, but what actually happens that unfortunately, and with the exceptions, the mineral industry requires much less skills than the manufacturing industry. So in the long term, it is generally the regions which have manufacturing industries fare far better than those with mining industry, those with mineral wealth. Then again, this has often been observed in practice that the mineral rich region often has an exploitative system. What happens due to the prospect of making easy money? You would repeat it, due to the prospect of making easy money, A mineral rich region generally attracts people who cannot be said to have right intentions. For example, there is some form of criminal political nexus, criminal and politician nexus in places like Dhanbad, whose case is well known and it is a part of the pop culture too. Then, geographical constraints can be blessing in disguise. The example is that is often made of is of countries like Korea, Japan, Switzerland, etc. As we were discussing in the just last lecture, that these places, Korea, Japan, and Switzerland, they have meager mineral resources, but with their human ingenuity, human ingeniousness, what these countries have done, these enterprising people, the Koreans, the Japanese, and the Swiss, what they have actually done, they have developed high value and industries, high value premium industries. What they essentially do, while they import mineral resources, they add much value to it and sell those products at premium price. The example can be given of the Japanese cars, for an example, the Korean electronics, and the Swiss luxury goods. Then, it is often human ingeniousness which trumps geography. So, it is in the ultimate analysis, it is generally the human factor. For an example, the enterprising nature of the people, the institutions, we are mentioning here the role of institutions, etc., which are more important than the geographical constraint, any geographical control. Now, explaining these points, the phenomenon of resource curse is indeed observed in India. This is again a warning to the idea that it is mineral wealth that can define the economic trajectory of a region. Jharkhand, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh all trail on development parameters. So it's not the geographical factor of mineral endowment, mineral resource endowment, that defines the economic destiny of these places. Then, people can turn constraint into opportunity. Enterprising people can often turn constraints into opportunity. For example, Marwadis excelled in trade, perhaps to escape the reality of their desert homeland. And moreover, let us appreciate the fact that the homeland of Marwadis has not only suffered from the geographical constraints of a desert land, actually desert land that lacks irrigation, but also this place has often faced the brunt of much violence, wars, etc. Despite that, the Marwadis excel in the world of business. Then an example that we can make from India is that places like Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Pune, all landlocked for all practical purpose, developed great educational and research institutions, underwriting their spectacular growth later. Again, let us appreciate that all these places, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Pune, are for all practical purpose, they are landlocked. But these places had a head start in the sense that they had important educational institutions, research institutions, etc. The example can be given of IISc and IIM at Bengaluru, the research institutions like CCMB, that is Center for Cellular Microbiology at Hyderabad, as well as the much wanted Pune University in Pune. So these regions provide the kernel, these institutions provided the kernel, they provided the seed on which the ultimate economic development of these places, that is Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Pune, was built. So this is the idea that while geography is indeed a control on the economic development of a country, it is the human factors like human ingeniousness, human enterprise, the presence of institutions, etc., which define the ultimate economic destiny of a country, a region, or a place. That is how we sum up our answer. We hope to meet you again with a new lecture in a few days. As usual, we wish you all the best. Thank you.